Ohio State's defense is in new hands, and Larry Johnson is already seeing the impact.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Hump Day edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And during today's show, we're going to discuss what Jason Moore can do to get on the field consistently, as well as CJ Hicks' progression as he's playing on the edge. But first, Ryan Day's hire of Matt Patricia has the chance to be the biggest one of the offseason. Matt Patricia's time in the NFL at multiple stops helps make him a wanted man by college football teams, and Ryan Day found a way to snag Matt Patricia to bring him to Columbus, Ohio. Well, Matt Patricia's only been at Ohio State for a couple of months. He's only been on the practice field for a few times, but he's already making an impact. That impact is being seen by Larry Johnson. And Larry Johnson had high praise for Matt Patricia, his ability to install the defense, make things simple for the players, be a great teacher. And when Larry Johnson says that about you, I think it speaks volumes about what you've done so far and what Matt Patricia might do while he leads the Buckeyes defense in the fall. And it's huge when you're going from Jim Knowles to somebody else, not even Matt Patricia, it could be anybody else out there, that you get somebody that comes in that can simplify everything for the players. I mean, isn't that what you want? You want a system that works, that is able to allow players to play fast. And when you allow players to play fast, one of the easiest ways to do that is to make things simpler for the players, so the players don't have to think. And too many times, I think coaches have these long, elaborate plans, and they take those plans and they present them to the players, and the players are like, cool, they get out there on the field, and they're thinking too much. You've seen football where guys are struggling to get lined up in the right position, and they're looking to the right, looking to the left. Next thing you know, the ball carrier is going right by them on the way to pay dirt, and you're wondering, what's going on? Why all of a sudden are there players that are struggling to get lined up, which should be a very elementary thing of playing football? Right now, even at the highest level in college, there are guys struggling to do that. Well, sometimes you have players out there that are thinking too much. Maybe it's because they're not able to pick up everything that's happening on the field and the opposing team is confusing them. While sometimes there are issues with what is being thrown at them and things aren't simple for them or simple enough, and they can't grasp it. They can't comprehend it. And in real time, going from a zone right that goes for 5 yards. Next thing you know, the offense goes no huddle. You're trying to figure out what just happened, and it's 13 yards right through your chest. And what's the cause? You're overthinking. Well, when Matt Patricia comes in, he knows that he's coming in following Jim Knowles, who's one of the most well-respected defensive minds in the sport. So you know you're coming in after a guy that did a lot of great things during his 3 years in Columbus, Ohio. But also, you have something that Jim Knowles doesn't have. A Super Bowl ring, singular. Oh, wait. Matt Patricia has multiple Super Bowl rings. Something Jim Knowles doesn't have. So you're bringing that to Ohio State. You're bringing in the ability to work with various guys. Maybe you want to work with Patrick Chung or Dante Hightower, and you're trying to figure out how can you utilize these guys and showcase their best abilities to make your defense the best. Well, you got to know how to be a great teacher. You got to know how to simplify things. Even though those are pros even play better when things are simple for them. That's just a human thing, a human quality that people want. Hey, I want a teacher that can simplify things for me, and Matt Patricia is doing that. Here's what Larry Johnson had to say on Matt Patricia, and when I heard it, I loved what LJ had to say. Quote, first of all, he's a great teacher, a really great teacher. He makes it simple for players to understand the process. The whole orientation of the defense has been really good, end quote. And the fact that that's coming from Larry Johnson, a guy that's been coaching in college football for a very long time, one of the few coaches that carried over from Urban Meyer's tenure to Ryan Day's tenure at Ohio State, and I think he might be the only coach that's still there, aside from Ryan Day, that was from the old regime. That's huge. And you know that Larry Johnson's in his early 70s, and he's been a college football lifer. He knows good coaches when he sees one. He can sense it from a mile away. And when his senses are going and he's right there on the practice field, yeah, it's only been a couple practices and the pads just got on for a couple of times. So there's not a whole lot of data to go off of as far as things that are happening on the football field. But when you know you've had those meetings and you know you've been able to showcase things to players on a whiteboard or on a screen, and you're doing it in a way that, yeah, the Caleb Downs of the world and the uh, Caden Currys of the world and Keanu Jackson Jr.'s of the world, yeah, they could pick it up. They've been around for a while. Caleb Downs is literally an extension of the coach on the field. I mean, his ability to process and to relay what he just processed is at an elite level. That's not normal, the things that he does as far as processing things and then being able to display that and showcase that for someone that's on his team. That's not normal. But also for Matt Patricia to simplify things in a way when it's needed. I mean, there were times people have said that Jim Knowles went into games with too many calls. So not only may things have been a little complex for the players, there may have just simply been the quantity of things that players are trying to take into a game that was just overwhelming. And their mind wasn't able to comprehend everything because of how overwhelming things were. That's not the best thing, but that's the reality. And Matt Patricia coming in, simplifying everything, being able to get the install in, being able to relay to college athletes in a way that he hasn't needed to do in 20 years. Yeah, he's been working at pro days every now and then, and he'll go in there and do some drills. But I mean, day after day after day, not forcing yourself, it's part of your job to relay to athletes between the ages of 18 to 22. It's a rare quality to have. Then you add in the context. At the last time Matt Patricia coached in college football was in 2003. Let's just go over a few things that are different in college football than they were in 2003. The college football playoff itself, the existence of it, was not a thing in 2003. NIL, the utilization of it currently, was not a thing in 2003. The transfer portal wasn't a thing in 2003. You had grad transfers. You had guys that may have transferred before they graduated from college, but the rules were a whole lot different. There was no portal for people to sit in and for people to go and find a number to contact the player. There wasn't that. There was tampering. I mean, there's always going to be tampering, but it wasn't at the rate that it is now. Expanded conferences. Conference expansion has been a thing for decades. However, you never had an 18-team league. You didn't have two leagues or multiple leagues with at least 16 teams. Sorry, ACC, I forgot about y'all for a second. You didn't have that. So there's a lot of things different. The bowl structure is different. And Matt Patricia being able to do this now, while there's a lot that has changed in college football, the one thing that hasn't changed is the coach-to-player relationship, knowing that the player needs to connect with the coach. The coach needs to connect with the player. What's an easy way for that to happen? It's for things to be simple. And if a coach is able to come in, connect immediately, and to relay everything and make it very simple for the athlete, we want to get that athlete and help that athlete to play their best ball on the field under your watch. One player looking to play their best ball in the fall, as CJ Hicks and his progression to play the edge continues to roll on as we go deeper into spring practice. This episode is brought to you by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades. Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is a reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need, delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Thank y'all for tapping Locked on Buckeyes and making this show a part of your day. One thing I love about Matt Patricia is his ability to simplify everything for the athletes. While simplifying everything, that goes right into CJ Hicks' progression to playing on the edge consistently. Did it a little bit a year ago, and I'm sure in the past couple of years, they've dabbled here and they dabbled there, trying to figure out if Hicks was better as an off-ball linebacker or an linebacker on the edge. We all think he's better as a linebacker on the edge. And as his transition goes on and Matt Patricia starts to simplify things for him, CJ Hicks is going to gain confidence. He's going to gain the confidence that he needs to be an elite player on the edge. Now, I'm not going to say he's going to be elite. I ain't making that claim yet. No, sir, Bob. I would love to, but you know your boy is more of a wait-and-see kind of guy, especially on March 26th. Who would I be as an analyst to try to make this bold proclamation about a guy that's never played consistently on the edge is going to be elite in the fall? Based off of what? What film would I be basing it off of? Because the film we have seen from CJ Hicks in Ohio State, we've seen some decent play from him on the edge, even some flashes of play that people would love to see consistently. But it hasn't been consistently. And for me to project you to be elite, you got to do something consistently and have enough film for me to make a bold proclamation that you're going to be elite in the fall. He can be, but we ain't seen enough ball yet from this young man at that position to make that bold claim. However, I do think CJ Hicks is playing the right position. I've said it before. I'll say it all offseason. We're going to talk about CJ Hicks, Julian Sand, all offseason. Lincoln Kienholz, Tavian St. Clair, all offseason. James Peebles and C.J. Donaldson and Jeremiah Smith and Ennis and Tate and Rogers and Graham and all offseason. Jackson Jr. and Curry. You get the gist. We're talking about a lot of these guys all offseason because those are the guys that are key for Ohio State to win the national championship. Isn't that what they play for? To win the Natty? Yeah, there's other games involved. You got to win a whole lot of games to even get to that point in the season. But isn't that what you play for? You play for all the marbles? I don't know where that phrase came from. I've been using it. We've all been using it. I have no idea where the phrase came from. But it ties into Ohio State. And their goal this year is to win the national championship. To do something that's never happened in the history of Ohio State football. To go back to back. And to do that, you need CJ Hicks to be confident. That's the key. Not if he's playing a position for the first time or for the first time in a long time, you need someone to be confident. Because if you're confident in your skill set, you're confident in what you do, and you know you're working every single day and improving every single day, that's going to help you be better because confidence is one part of the battle. If you can be the best player out there, pick a position on the football field, you can be the best player out there. But if you're not confident in your own skills, you might not go all out all the time because you're worried about X, Y, or Z when you aren't confident in yourself. Trust me. Confidence is key on the football field, off the football field, in the classroom, at the office, whatever it is. Confidence is key. Because if your confidence is higher, think about how productive you're going to be, how great your work is going to be, how much better you're going to get every single day because you're confident. Well, Larry Johnson talked on CJ Hicks recently and touched on his development at defensive end. Here's what LJ had to say about Mr. Hicks. Quote, "It's still early. We just got done with our second day of pads, so it's still early, but it's there. We just got to continue to work at it. Hicks has the technique. Hicks has been working hard, and he's eager to learn," end quote. It's not saying a whole lot of deep stuff, but it's saying everything you need to know about Hicks right now. It's early. It's the second day of pads. Him having the technique goes into him working hard and being eager to learn, because the technique is key. That adds to the confidence. A guy that's confident but doesn't have the technique, and he might be eager to learn, but this technique still might not be there. Just spinning your wheels, man. I'm not saying you're wasting your time, but it's going to be a struggle, man. It's going to be a real big struggle. But if you have the technique and you have the confidence, watch out. That is a good recipe to put fear on the opposition's eyes, because they got to deal with a guy that's eager, that's hungry, that's playing a new position, but has the technique to kill them. And I think for Hicks, it goes into a lot of things you hear with offensive linemen. And I saw a picture of Hicks recently, and I was thinking, oh, the first thing I thought about in that picture, I know it's a picture that was snapped during a drill. Don't know the exact drill that he was doing at that point in time, but his pad level was perfect. And I don't say that very loosely. As a guy that's watched a lot of football, you can look out there on the football field and look at offensive linemen, defensive linemen specifically, and say, the pad level's not good. Low man wins. Those are two things that you look out there, and you look out there and see where's his pad level, and is he the low man? If he's not the low man, he might not win. Now, you can not be the low man and still win if by brute strength, or the other person just not being very good, or you find a counter that overtakes the person that initially has the better pad level. But your pad level is key. I remember last year I was out at a high school doing some preseason work, and they said, hey, Jay, take the mic, one of the DJI mics that's a lavalier. You clip it on your shirt or something with a magnet, and they say, hey, go over there, get some audio from the offensive lineman doing some drills. And they were doing board drills and ended up doing some one-on-one pass rush drills. And I loved every second of it. And I am a guy that loves just good old O-line play. High school, college, pro, don't matter. I'm watching the O-line every single day, because it's just a part of me. And so when I was watching these drills, there was a couple of guys out there, I'm not going to say any names, but there were a couple of guys that I knew had the goods, and their pad level was great. Now, when the pad level wasn't great, they didn't win the drill. Some of them were able to win the drill because they found a counter, or they recovered and said, oh, pad level was bad at the start. After that, I recovered, got a little bit lower, and used my leverage to get the technique right to get to the quarterback. And when I was thinking about those guys doing that there, I realized there were guys in this drill that should not go up against each other. One guy, one guy's older, he's physically stronger, he gets off the bus, you think he's a dude, while the other guy gets off the bus and you might think he's a manager. School size kind of dictates things, and some guys trying to figure out where they can go, and all of a sudden you realize, man, that guy's a lineman, but he's not going to play this year. He's a little bit young, he hasn't put on the weight, hasn't been in the weight room as consistently. There's a lot of factors that go into somebody getting off the bus and not really being viewed as a football player. But the technique in that drill was huge, and that goes for anything. Now, Hicks is not playing a traditional defensive end position. He's more of a stand-up or outside backer when he's playing on the edge, but technique is still technique. Technique goes for the corner, goes for the receiver, goes for everybody. Your technique is huge. Ryan did touch on it with Will Howard about when Will Howard's footwork was on point, it's hard to stop him. Will Howard, when he first got to Ohio State a year ago, his technique wasn't great, wasn't fitting what Ohio State needed from a quarterback. Once he got his footwork right and once he sped up his own internal clock, you saw Will Howard play phenomenal ball. I'm still amazed at Will Howard and the way that he played. And I hope at the end of the day, I'm amazed at C.J. Hicks and the way that he plays in the fall. He's confident. He's eager to learn. But most importantly, even though it's early in spring practice, only a couple of days of pads, the buddy has that technique down. And he got the technique down in spring. It's only up from here. Texas week 1. Go back and battle for the Illa Buck. You got to play Penn State. You got to play the team up north. You got to take a trip to Camp Randall. Keep that same technique you have right now, young man, and take that throughout the entire season. Keep that same eagerness to learn, the same hunger and fire from the inside. Keep that same thing all off season going into the season. And watch out, because C.J. Hicks might be playing himself into being a guy that gets drafted in 2026. Another guy's trying to get drafted, but maybe not in 2026, is Jason Moore. There's a clear path for Jason Moore to play football this year and to play consistently. We'll dive into that next. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now, I budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for half off your first year.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Thank y'all for tapping Locked On Buckeyes and making this show a part of your day. Be on the lookout for our second pod coming out around 5 p.m. Eastern today, discussing the Ohio State Buckeyes on the basketball side and a couple guys that have gone to the portal. But might have to get pushed back into Thursday. Got to fine-tune the timing of that, but there will be at least one show coming up this afternoon, possibly two. Squad show, Buckeye basketball. You'll get one of those in your feed this afternoon. Ohio State is fortunate to have a lot of youngsters on the football team. Guys that are finishing up their second year of playing football, that have been around the program for a while, that know what the culture's about, that understand the coaches, and have seen some guys jump them in the depth chart that may make them wonder what they can do to get on the field consistently. And for Jason Moore specifically, I think there's a clear path for this young man to get on the field consistently as an Ohio State Buckeye. It's going to take some work. It's not going to be easy. But for Jason Moore, he is a guy that Ohio State is looking to take the necessary steps to be a necessary depth piece at defensive tackle. For him, it's kind of simple. Right now, at least in spring practice, especially with the not being many padded practices that have been completed, focus on the little things. Just like C.J. Hicks is focusing on his technique and he's eager to learn and trying to pick up on all of the bigger details of playing on the edge before picking up some of the minor details that are major on the football field, I think Jason Moore needs to continue to work on the little things, the technique, your get off, your first two steps, the pop when you hit the shoulder pads, your hand placement, your leverage. I mean, the little things that are not little to a defensive lineman. If your footwork is bad, if you're bad off the start, your first 2 feet are bad, first two steps are bad, if you don't have the leverage, if there's no pop right there as a defensive tackle, you're going to be trying to catch up from the jump. But if you got good feet work, if you're quick off the ball, if you're reading things correctly when it's the guy across from you and you're trying to read and react to, if you get the little things right, if you get the start of the play correct, you're going to get a lot more things right. Now, even Edric Houston jumping in with the depth chart, I don't think he has a problem with that. No. Edric Houston is a rare kid, came in at one position, transitioned to another, a 5-star kid from Georgia that I think is going to be a dog this year. And I don't use that word loosely, but he has a chance to be a dog this year. Jason Moore played a little bit of ball for Ohio State, hasn't played a lot. On his career, been a Buckeye for a couple of years. Played in 10 total games, one his freshman year, 9 games last year, 2 total tackles. Those are the only stats he's had. Those were assisted tackles in his 2 years at Ohio State. Not a problem. Not a problem at all. But Ohio State needs him to take a next step. Now, here's Larry Johnson speaking on Jason Moore and what he wants to see Jason Moore do during the offseason. Quote, that's what he needs. He needs to play football. That's what we're going to try to do this spring. Get him as much football as possible. play and give him a chance to help us up front, end quote. Larry Johnson also added that he hopes Moore has 200 or 300 reps under his belt by the end of spring. So in 15 practices, get between 200 to 300 reps under your belt this time of year. That's not snaps in the fall. That's reps right now. That's huge. And that also goes into CJ Hicks' development. I think you could tie both of these in. One guy has been there a little bit longer. Another guy got jumped in the depth chart. But both guys are eager and hungry to play football as much as they can in the fall. And for Jason Moore, I think the need is just as great as it is for Hicks. You need these two guys to be players. And for Jason Moore, I don't think he's trying to get him to gain weight or lose weight. I think the weight is healthy for him right now, and he's solid where he currently is. Those details, those little things, embrace them. Be all about every aspect of the details that don't get discussed on TV, but speak volumes in the meeting room and on the film. Be all about those details. Because if you knock out those details, just you wait and see what happens next. And with this position group specifically, outside of Caden McDonald and Edric Houston, is kind of up for grabs. I mean, you would have expected Hero Canoe to be right there as a guy that's your third defensive tackle. He down transferred to Texas. And some may say, well, the NIL played a part in it. He would have got the same NIL at Texas as he would at Ohio State, because there are restrictions on how much money he can make via NIL that's regulated by the federal government. I don't like it, but that's the way things are for certain athletes out there. And so, no, I don't think it's the NIL. He wanted to go someplace and play, and Texas is good, has an elite defense, and good for him, man. Go down there, Hero, and, well, you could play well against Ohio State. I hope Texas loses against Ohio State week 1 of the upcoming season, but I hope you do well. But with Hero Canoe gone, that depth, you're kind of waiting to see who steps up. You're kind of waiting to see who fills in the gaps. Jason Moore's a guy. If you don't get Jason Moore to step up, then there's a problem. Just like we talked about the portal with Ohio State's basketball team that's going to be coming up here shortly. The portal could be one of those areas that Ohio State goes to when the spring portal window opens up here in a few weeks, honestly, less than a month now. Outside of Caden McDonald and Edric Houston, you got Tymo Malone, who's been around for a while, who's probably he's going to be a backup. Jason Moore is going to be a backup. You got Eric Mensah and Will Smith Jr. You got those guys that are backups for Ohio State. I don't know who the top two guys are going to be when the season starts. I know who they should be, not based off tenure, just based off the way that they played the football. And Jason Moore and Tymo Malone, that's what it should be. But if those guys aren't progressing like you think they should, and should be during spring practice, you may need to go to the portal to get one more guy that you know could be a plug-and-play guy, be a younger player that could be a great depth piece now, that you can get acclimated to Ohio State quickly and get ramped up very quickly during fall camp to be a guy that could be your fourth or maybe even fifth defensive tackle, depending on team, depending on the situation of the game. You need to have 4 or 5. You really want to have 6. But truly 4 or 5 defensive tackles ready to play at any given moment. Think about teams you have seen play any sport, a team sport, not an individual sport like golf. Think about a team sport, and you're watching this team go and go and go. The next thing you know, injury here, injury there, and they can't stay at the same level, or they can't get over the hump because the depth of that position isn't there. We all thought that was going to be what Ohio State was going to be last year when you lose a Simmons, a Mahowski, a McLaughlin. We all thought, Ohio State's about to be down to these guys. Man, there goes the season, especially after that Michigan loss. There goes the season. But what happened? The depth emerged at the right time. And for Ohio State, you can prepare to have depth so that if the unfortunate happens, you're going to be just fine. Thank y'all for tapping Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out Locked On College Basketball with Andy Patton and Isaac Shade, because those are the only 2 individuals You need to follow all tournament long as they walk you through the field of 68 all the way through the national championship game. Find Locked On Buckeyes and Locked On College Basketball on the YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow me on any social media platform at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. This has been Locked On Buckeyes on a hump day. We'll see you next time.